As the sun rises, the silhouette of the Great Sphinx of Giza emerges from the morning mist, creating a sense of mystery. Birds circle above, and the desert wind fills the air. The focus shifts to the intricate face of the Sphinx, where small details like its weathered eyes and nose are revealed up close, hinting at the thousands of years it has witnessed. As the camera zooms out, the pyramids appear in the background, majestic and towering. A soft, mysterious voiceover begins. The Great Sphinx, an enigma of time, has guarded the sands of Egypt for millennia. But is this the true face of history, or is there more hidden beneath its gaze? The scene transitions to a historian standing near the Sphinx, giving a brief overview of the historical debates, theories, and mysteries surrounding the monument. As the narrator continues, the camera glides around the monument, capturing the wear of time and restoration patches, ending with a focus on the Sphinx's paws where the dream stela rests. The Sphinx's head was the same size as the adjacent statue, and that's how the Sphinx probably looked when it was first sculpted. That's why if we get closer, we will find its head is in much better condition than the eroded body. Although, the head should be ideally in worse condition than the body, or at least its outfit, because it is the first thing that is exposed to wind and rain. The head of the Sphinx was never like that, but because of the erosion it was recarved in the image of a particular person. However, until today, we do not know who he is. There is debate whether the statue of the Sphinx originally had the head of a lion or a human. But inevitably, this is not the original head of the Sphinx. The Sphinx is like all Egyptian monuments. It was restored in different periods. The New Kingdom made restorations on it, and then the Ptolemies and Romans made their restorations. Then we came in the last 100 years, and we made our repairs. Until today the maintenance is continuing, and the restoration stones are still apparent on it. It does not mean that the fourth dynasty made renovations to it that they are the owners, but the owners could be much older than that. Dr. Salim Hassan mentioned that the Roman historian, Pliny, believed that the Sphinx was older than the dynastic period and that it was from the followers of Horus at period. Maspero quoted, "The Great Sphinx has been the guard over the far north since the time of the followers of Horus." Some historians and scholars believe that the Sphinx was prior to the dynastic period. Is there another Sphinx, or is it just one? A prince in ancient Egypt was on a hunting trip, then he decided to rest a little while in the shadow of the head of the Sphinx. When he slept, the Sphinx appeared to him in a dream and announced that he would rule Egypt. He asked him to remove the sand that covered it when he became a king. This prince later became King Thutmose IV. He removed the sand covering him and built a wall to protect him from the sand encroachment in the future. He wrote this story on a granite stela in between the paws of the Sphinx, currently called the Dream Stela. The strange thing about this inscription is that it shows Thutmose for making offerings to two Sphinx. Not only one, is this an indication of the existence of another Sphinx statue? The majority of the Sphinx statues are dualed. They can be found on both sides of the Ram's Road. If we look at the Pompeii pillar, we will find two statues. In Luxor Temple 2, right and left, and so on in many places. In 1920, Flinders Petrie, one of the first English Egyptologists, realized that there could be two sphinxes, both of which are on the same line as shown in the Dream Stela. So he decided to search for the second sphinx. He turned his back on the Great Sphinx and kept looking for the other in a straight line for any trace of the second sphinx until he crossed the Nile, continued over Mahdi. Those at that time were on farms until they reached the edge of the eastern desert, but he did not find any indication of a second sphinx. Mr. Bassam al-Shama is an Egyptian Egyptologist, and he also investigated this topic, and he proposed an initial location for the Sphinx in this place, based on communication with NASA. NASA sent him satellite photos of this area. They informed him that there is a stone object carved by man or nature in this location. They didn't know for sure, but he believes that the second Sphinx is theoretically located in this place. He published a book entitled The Second Sphinx, in which he documented all the evidence and photos from NASA. Unfortunately, since there are no permits to excavate, the project has been abandoned. On the other hand, Dr. Hawass replied that he had excavated this area before but did not find anything. So until now, the theory is still pending and not completely proven. Robert Bauval, whose theory we explained in the last episode, and proposed that the pyramids dated back to 10500 BC, also investigated this matter. He believed there is another Sphinx, but he did not know where exactly. One of the Sphinx's names is Hor-Mak, which means Horus in the horizon. But where is Horus in the horizon? He went back to his astronomical computer program for the year 10500 BC to see the shape of the sky in front of the Sphinx. As soon as he went back, he saw something that shocked him, and picked up the phone to call his friend Graham Hancock. He said, "You will not believe what I have just found." Bovell knew where he could find the second Sphinx, the stars of the constellation of Leo. 10,500 BC. When Robert returned to the period of the pyramids, 10500 BC, he noticed that the constellation of Leo appeared in front of the Sphinx precisely at the same epoch. The Sphinx is known to be a symbol of the strength of a lion and that its body is a lion's body. This means that the Great Sphinx and the pyramids belong to the same epoch known as the Lion Epoch. In the year 10500 BC, Orion's belt was aligned with the Giza pyramids and the Milky Way was aligned with the Nile at the south. The Leo constellation rose in front of the Sphinx in the east. Furthermore, if we go back to 2500 BC, we will find the Leo constellation cannot be in front of the Sphinx. When the Sphinx was looking to the east, he was not looking to the sunrise, however, he was looking to his image on the horizon. For Bovell, this was new evidence of the Giza Plateau and that in the period of 10500 BC, it was a mirror of the sky. As we said, the Nile River was identical to the Milky Way, and the 7 pyramids are equivalent to the 7 stars in the sky. Also, the Sphinx is equivalent to the stars of the lion, and this coincidence repeats every 26,000 years, which astronomers call the Great Year. In the future, there might appear things that we have not discovered. And therefore, the issue of transferring antiquities is problematic, whether transferring temples or obelisks. Because we do not know what we can discover from these monuments, the ancients choose these places for a reason, and changing the location of these monuments destroys this reason. Thus, Robert Bovell's theory became united with Robert Schoch's theory. And redating to Giza's main monuments, the pyramids, and the Sphinx date to 10500 BC. In the early 90s, Robert Schoch explained the hypothesis of redating the Sphinx to Egyptologists about the age of the Sphinx. Dr. Mark Lehner described the team as ignorant and insensitive. Dr. Zahi Hawass stated, "This is an American hallucination." Nevertheless, Robert Schoch was stubborn, and a master of his field as a geologist. He published his theory in a book entitled The Great Sphinx. And later another book entitled Origins of the Sphinx, explained his theory with Robert Bovell about the Sphinx and its actual age. In my opinion, Bovell and Schoch made 2 mistakes in their theories. First, they separated the pyramids and the Sphinx from the rest of the Egyptian monuments. They considered that the people who made these monuments were a different civilization from the rest, which was a weak point. As if some people made the pyramids and the Sphinx then walked away. Well, where are the temples? Where are the inscriptions? Where are the tombs? And Mark Lehner, in a debate, took advantage of this point. The second mistake is that there is much repetition of the word Atlantis without sufficient evidence, and that the survivors of the flooded continent of Atlantis moved with their knowledge to Egypt and founded a new civilization. And this statement, until now, has had no evidence. The debate is that they say that this region is more than 10,000 years old BC. Historians say that there was no civilization here in 10,000 years BC. So, they responded, well, then this is a lost civilization. Until we know who they are, we will call it the lost civilization. Egypt passed in its beginning an era called the Era of the Gods, and Horus, the son of Isis and Osiris, is the last of those gods, and he gave up his role in favor of a group of powerful kings, and he took charge of protecting them to begin the period of the followers of Horus, or Shemsuhor. Moreover, I believe that the kings of Shemsuhor are the kings of the golden age of Egyptian civilization because their existence coincides with that of the builders of the pyramids and the Sphinx. Most of the miracles that we see were built by them, not by the dynastic kings. Although there are no specific years decided for them, as these numbers are lost from the Turin Papyrus, the current numbers are primarily conclusions. However, we knew that they existed before the dynastic period and ruled for at least 5,000 years according to what Eusebius of Caesarea quoted from Manetho. After Bovell's theory about the age of the pyramids came out and Schoch and Anthony West's theory about the age of the Sphinx in the early 90s, we can say that there were 2 major opinions about Egyptian civilization, which resulted in the existence of 2 opposing streams. The first stream is the official stream, and this is the largest and most famous stream. The prestigious people, the heads of the history and archaeology departments in universities, the curators of museums, and those who speak on behalf of antiquities in official forums. Furthermore, the most famous names, including Dr. Zahi Hawass, Dr. Mark Lehner, Dr. Rainer Stadelman, Dr. Bob Breyer, Dr. Salima Ikram, and many others. This stream follows the official version that has been written in the references for decades. In summary, the Egyptian civilization began around 3500 BC, and the kings of the dynastic period were the only owners of the pyramids, obelisks, and temples. They used primitive tools in construction and sculpture, such as hammers, chisels, sleds, and wooden lifts, and that the Egyptian civilization gradually collapsed over hundreds of years. Because of the weakness of the government and the entry of foreigners, then the invasion of the country by the Persians, Greeks, and Romans, to the extent that it reached complete collapse and disappearance. The second stream presents an entirely different story from the official stream, and you may find them in books under the name Modern Stream. His most famous names are Graham Hancock, John Anthony West, Christopher Dunn, Robert Schoch, Robert Bauval, and many others, including many Egyptians. They present astronomical, geological, and scientific evidence that proves a vital missing piece of Egyptian history, dating back 10 to 12,000 years BC. Moreover, the Egyptian civilization peaked its superiority in this period. The owners of this era were the builders of the pyramids, obelisks, temples, and giant statues, and they possessed advanced technologies and sciences that were not primitive, and we have not yet understood it. Moreover, the Egyptian civilization has not gradually collapsed, instead, collapsed due to a powerful catastrophe. The dynastic period came after them, and they rediscovered and used the statues, sarcophagi, temples, and obelisks that the ancient ancestors had made. This catastrophe has much evidence, but the most important of them are three. Firstly, the presence of many destroyed temples and destroyed pyramids and broken statues in most archaeological sites. To the extent that tourists always ask why everything is broken like this, it is clear that the end was not expected. The issue is more than the entry of the Hyksos or Persians. The second evidence is that there are many halted engineering works, incomplete pyramids, incomplete sarcophagi, or not located in their proper places as the owners intended to complete them and did not have the time to finish. The third piece of evidence is the loss of knowledge. We were building pyramids and making obelisks, and suddenly we did not know how these structures were being built, nor what their real benefit was. And all of this, we will see details in the upcoming episodes. Of course, the second stream is attacked and gets accusations of destroying the official story, but their arguments contain a great deal of reason and logic. Since we were young, we learned, heard, and read the theories of the mainstream. The time has come for us to consider the second stream, what they say and how they think. See you next time. After so many years spent in research and investigation on the origins of the Egyptian civilization and its true story, particularly the research on the Sphinx, John Anthony West left our world in 2018. As the documentary comes to a close, the scene returns to the Sphinx, now illuminated by the soft glow of twilight. The sky above shifts from deep orange to indigo, with stars beginning to twinkle. The camera slowly ascends, showing the full view of the Sphinx, the pyramids, and the Nile in the distance. An overhead shot captures the vastness of the Giza Plateau, reflecting on the monumental structure's alignment with the cosmos. The narrator's voice echoes, "The truth behind the Sphinx may remain buried under centuries of sand and stone, but its presence still stands as a symbol of the eternal quest for knowledge." Perhaps the future holds the key to unraveling its secrets.